On Wolves Postcast. My name is Ben Beacon. I am the host of Locked on Wolves, and I'm joined today by Chilenga Langason. He is our new, correspondent. We'll come up with a good name for it. Chilenga is at the Target Center. He was at the game tonight. How's it going?
I'm great. You can actually refer to me as the local expert, please.
Local expert.
It's
We'll go
my
with
job
that.
title.
I like that.
Yeah.
So Chilenga is going to help break down the game today. We're going to do this after each and every Timberwolves game here moving forward. So starting tonight, we'll go through the regular season finale on Sunday, and then likely play in. As of right now, it looks like that's as of this recording, post Timberwolves game on Thursday. Denver is winning, so if they win, then I guess it will be play in next week. But first, let's talk about this game. I want to hit just kind of a couple key takeaways, and then we'll get a little bit. This will be a quick hitter. But what's your number one takeaway from the game, Chilenga?
Well, I mean, Anthony Edwards, 49 points. Obviously, he was cooking from the beginning. He started aggressive, driving to the basket. I think we've seen in the past few weeks that oftentimes he's kind of started from the perimeter. But tonight, he attacked the basket early, made a couple of layups from the jump, and that really got him going. And he got up to 49. It was amazing to see.
Yeah, and that I had that written down as well. I mean, it wasn't just he scored the 49, it was how he scored the 49. The 14 free throw attempts, I think that was a season or maybe even a career high for him in a game. I saw somebody say that on Twitter, and he was aggressive. Like you said, there were multiple opportunities. He had a couple threes early in this game, and typically we've seen him just kind of settle into, okay, I've got some space. I'm just gonna shoot another jumper. And he had space in this game, and instead was like, okay, wait a minute. I can beat the guy that's guarding me, or I've got a step. A couple times in the first half, Jakob Poeltl got switched on to him. I think it was maybe 3 out of 4 possessions, and he just took him right to the basket. And obviously, that's what he should do every time, but he hasn't always done that. He's so content to shoot threes. But in this game, he was attacking the basket, and we saw late in the game that opened up. You look at the box score. If you didn't watch this game, you'd say, "Oh man, he jacked up 14 threes in this game." But what, 4 or 5 of those were at the end of the game, trying to get his career high?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to ask him about, it felt like he had some sort of not vendetta against Jakob Poeltl. Every time that he saw that Jakob was on the other end, he was ready to attack, which was great to see. And just the energy in the arena, or like as the number kept growing higher and higher, he had that step back that like had Josh
Yeah,
Richardson turned around,
yeah.
and when that sunk, I mean, it was OC. The arena exploded. It was really just amazing to be here.
Yeah, and I think it was right after that is he had I think it was after that step back when a couple possessions later after a timeout, he then, or I guess he forced a timeout, he got into the paint, finished through contact, forced a timeout, flexed to the crowd. It was kind
Yep.
of like it was really weird. It was like not weird, it's how it should work, right? Early in the game, the drive set up his jumper, he knocked down some threes, and then the Spurs were loading up on him, and he was still getting past the primary defender with his quick first step that we all know he has. But then the Spurs also just had a miserable defensive game in the paint. But Ant is just unbelievable when he gets downhill, as we know. For me, I was actually, and I know this sounds crazy in a game where I mean, obviously the main takeaway is Ant's career high, but I look at the Spurs scored 121 points, but I actually thought the Timberwolves played decent half court defense. I thought the biggest issue is transition defense, whether that was they've struggled transition defense all season long. But complaining about fouls, we saw a lot of that in this game. We saw a couple Ant possessions where he was busy being excited about his own offensive play, was a little bit late getting back. The transition defense was not good, but in the half court, they were locked in. I thought that Anthony Edwards was good at the point of attack. I thought the Timberwolves, they mixed in a little bit of playing pick and roll at the level of the screen, playing up a little bit more, even blitzing a little bit early in the game. And then they mixed in some drop coverage, and the pick and roll defense was hit and miss in this game. But overall, the half court defense, I was impressed with the level of intensity, and certainly following the debacle that we saw on Tuesday against Washington. They were a lot more locked in defensively in the half court, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what we were looking for. I mean, I think we talked about that yesterday, wanting to see them engage a little bit more in the half court defense. And you look at the shot chart and you see, oh, San Antonio shot 80% at the rim, which continues the pattern that the Wolves have been on. But again, like you said, a lot of that was in transition, due to the complaining and all that. But overall, I think you're right. The defense was much better. I don't think the score necessarily reflects like the distance that the Wolves
Yeah.
had, because they were up by almost 20 for a lot of the fourth quarter, excuse me.
Yeah, and speaking even late, within the final couple minutes, it was a double-digit lead, and then Ant went on the "Hey, I'm gonna try and get 50." We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But actually, that's a pretty good segue. The Timberwolves were 9.5 point, or I think it was down maybe 9 point favorites over at betonline.net. And I want to briefly talk about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different leagues this season. Like I said, the Wolves were 9 point favorites at betonline.net. And I mean, I don't know that it was a completely bad beat because in the final couple minutes, it kind of lingered in that 6 to 8 point range. But if you had bet on this game, it was hovering right around that mark in the final couple of minutes. And once again, it underscores how good Vegas is and how good BetOnline is. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Ant at the end of the game. So it was pretty clear. I mean, he had what, 20 at halftime, I think 32 at the end of the third quarter,
Hmm.
and he stayed hot. Was on the floor maybe for the whole fourth quarter, almost the whole fourth quarter. Um, and it was pretty clear that he was going to have a shot at his career high, and they needed him to keep scoring because, like we said, the deficit, I mean, it kind of hung around the 10, 12 point mark for a while. But then when there was about 2 minutes left, I think it was an 11 or 12 point game, and it just became Ant jacking up 3 pointers every opportunity he got. What was the vibe in the building? What were people feeling? And how was that received by the home crowd?
Okay, so I think the crowd in general was just like praying, and they wanted to see Ant get 50, right? They wanted every shot to fall. Everyone was waiting like with bated breath as he took the shots. In the media section, that was not the reception necessarily. We were all kind of looking at each other like they know that they could lose this game, right? Because I think it got down to 4 at one point, and
I
granted
think
there
so,
were
yeah.
like 9 seconds left, so I mean it was pretty well in hand, but like with every shot that Ant put up was like one more look to the left, look to the right, like
Yeah.
are the Wolves sure about this? Especially when Patrick Beverly took the take foul,
Yeah.
put Wieskamp at the line so that Ant could get the ball back. I thought that was gold.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I actually watched the Spurs broadcast for this game, and the Spurs announcers were not fans of it, and they were, even when it was, I mean, still, like, the odds of them coming back in a 2 possession game with 12 seconds left aren't great, but it's possible, right? And they were like, hurry up, score, foul. Like, the Spurs can still do this. And then at the end of the game, they shared their feelings about how the Spurs probably aren't happy with the way that was handled at the end. I don't know that anybody really cared. I think Popovich knew the deal. I mean,
mhm.
that's Chris Finch is a player's coach. Patrick Beverly that's his makeup. He's pulling for his guys, and like, he's Beverly specifically, not to get too much on a tangent, is such an interesting uh person in a lot of ways, but also because, like, he's so competitive. And so you could see if he was on the flip side of that getting really upset, but he also is fighting for his guys, and he wants Anthony Edwards to, get his career high, get to 50, whatever. He did get his career high at the free throw line ultimately, which
Yeah.
was interesting, but didn't quite get to 50. So I'm sure he'll have a 50 point game before too long. Um,
I bet he'll have more than one in his
yeah,
career. I have no
yeah.
doubt about that.
Well, yeah, and there's also the of course, Jaden McDaniels, when he sprained his ankle, missed 9 games just a few weeks ago. That was at the end of a game. I understand why he was on the floor in that situation. The game wasn't completely over, but it was one of those where, like, we're kind of in this, because it was like 11 or 12 when he started shooting threes with 2 minutes left, and it's kind of that weird zone where you don't really want to completely mail it in, but if somebody gets hurt, you're like, wait a minute, why was he on the floor? So there was also that thing kind of hanging over it. Um, what other takeaways you got? I guess my other thing um, was allowing the Spurs to hang around in general. I mean, the Spurs aren't a bad team. Obviously, they're going to be in the play-in in the West. Um, but this was one of those where, like, it would have been nice to just kind of just put it away. I mean, it was a double-digit lead for a good chunk of the game. They're obviously down after the first quarter, but
Hmm.
it just, and part of it was the Karl Anthony Towns foul trouble, which is a whole other thing we could talk about. Um, they just couldn't quite put it away,
Hmm.
and 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 it was frustrating because you wanted to get rest for some of those guys coming into the play in next week. But just the inability to kind of close them out.
Right. I think too. what I call it is I call it Wolves trauma. Is like having rooted for the Wolves for a long time. When we see things that sort of bring up old traumas, it sort of triggers a reaction in us. And so when you talk about like letting off the gas and letting the Spurs kind of come back into that game, that brings up like a lot of memories of Wolves letting games slip away. You know, games that they should have won where they were up. Teams just pick up the pace, and the Wolves let off the gas, and before they know it, the game has slipped away. Now, I don't know. That's not necessarily a reflection of what's happening this season, but like I can't help but go there when I see the Spurs fighting back late in a game like that, because this is a game that the Wolves should have run away with. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, they were up 15-18 halfway through the fourth quarter. That's when you accelerate, you put on the gas and you really go for it. But they didn't do it, and
Yeah.
that definitely brought up some old feelings.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's talk about what we want to look forward to on Sunday. I will say Denver did just close it out and beat Memphis, so
Shoot.
it is going to be the 7th seed for the Timberwolves next week. I believe, is that game Wednesday next week?
That's Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Tuesday. All right. So let's close it here in just a second. First, though, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar before we wrap this up. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right, thanks to Built Bar. It doesn't even really feel like a resolution, though, because I actually enjoy eating them. If you haven't tried Built Puffs, you need to. They're actually protein infused marshmallows. They're fluffy and marshmallowy. There's tons of delicious flavors. I just had brownie batter puffs for the first time the other day. Yummy cinnamony churro flavors, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, and every single Built Bar is covered in 100% real chocolate. They're completely healthy. Most Built Bars have just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Candy bars are 240 plus calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. At Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make their bars taste delicious first and then figure out how to make them healthy. And I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. Looking ahead to Sunday, the Timberwolves play the Bulls. What can we take from this game? Looking ahead to the playoffs, what do the Wolves do from how many guys play? How long do they play if the game really doesn't mean a whole lot? What are your thoughts heading to Sunday?
I think that they got to go into it like it matters. I think that it's like I grew up doing theater. It's a dress rehearsal, right? Like it's tech. It's like you got to make sure that you're ready for the actual show. So I think if they take it easy on Sunday, that feels like a strategic mistake. The guys got to stay ready.
I agree 100%. I think it's not like they had 10 games to spare at the end of the season for a playoff spot. They have to keep the foot on the gas, especially because of a little bit of this downturn recently. Obviously, they've now won 3 out of 4, but in general, they don't have quite the same momentum and feel that they did 2 weeks ago. Obviously, tough schedule, but I agree 100% with that. All right, so we're going to wrap this thing up. Reminder, we will be going live for the Postcast on Sunday as well, following Wolves Bulls from Target Center. That's a 7:30 p.m. tip Central. And then, of course, next week for the plan on Tuesday, we'll be live after that as well. So be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked on Wolves for all things Timberwolves. And, of course, a big thank you to Chilingo Langston from Zone Coverage and the CND NBA podcast. We'll be back on Sunday. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Ben.